than this now because of lack of water.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. The National Weather Service confirms the tornado that struck New York State on Tuesday was an EF-2 with peak winds of 135 miles per hour. The twister devastated much of the city of Rome. East of Syracuse, churches lost steeples, bricks tumbled off buildings and roofs, blew off homes. We have two reports, starting with Connor Wright in Rome.
The National Weather Service has reason to believe that the tornado in Rome began close to here off of J Street, and you can see the evidence for yourself. Huge trees cut nearly clean in half, sending branches and entire trunks hurtling down to the ground. Also here, roofing tiles and other pieces of debris from homes that are that way, setting the people that live in this direction scrambling for cover.
This was my whole life.
Jennifer Riolo's family can see everything they own in the grass.
And I opened the front door and this is what I see. And I just screamed.
Tuesday, the National Weather Service confirming a tornado formed almost on top of their backyard. Riolo's sole focus, her daughter Lily.
So I threw her in the shower, I laid on top of her, and I had nothing to cover us, so I was looking around and I found a 12-pack of paper towel. So I picked that up and I just crouched down and I covered us with it. It sounded like somebody had vice grips on my house. My house was squealing, and it was a sound like I had never heard.
Driving through Rome, you'll find devastation just about everywhere. The National Weather Service in town surveying the damage, determining that the tornado that hit Rome is the strongest Oneida County has endured in over 30 years. Experts relieved but surprised no one was hurt.
And when you have debris everywhere and trees falling into structures and cars, I mean, it is very remarkable that there's no deaths or injuries confirmed from this specific event.
Scary is the only word Carol Kassler could think of when describing the severe, dangerous storm that hit her hometown, Canastota, on Tuesday. She took us to her backyard. Parts of her neighbor's roof was on her property. Branches and leaves were everywhere. But what was most noticeable was the massive tree that was split and almost hit her home. Despite all the damage, she couldn't hear anything due to the monstrous winds.
Have you ever seen something like this in like the 54 years that you lived here?
No.
And this was an extremely unusual event for New York State, which typically only sees 10 tornadoes a year, and most of them are much weaker than this one. Syracuse meteorologist Peter Hall explains what happened.
Here's where it happened, literally right in the city of Rome, which is right here. It formed right on the west side and made its way across Griffiths Air Force Base, which, by the way, actually had a B-52 bomber moved off its stanchion. It was on display. It got moved. That's how strong this tornado was. Nearly an EF-3. This had 135 mile per hour sustained winds. EF-3 is 136, so it was very close to that. And it was the biggest tornado in Oneida County in central New York since 1983 in Boonville, which is north of Rome. You notice here on the radar a couple of things. This is the velocity. So you see how tight this couplet is right here. You've got very, very strong winds moving in one direction this way and curling in and moving in this direction. You can almost see everything of that circulation right in through here. Incredible stuff. It is very unusual to have this kind of thing happen across upstate New York.
And 11 inches of rain fell in northern Arkansas in just a matter of an hour yesterday morning that led to a flash flooding with the water rushing over bridges and roads and into many buildings. Most of the town of Yellville flooded. That community is still recovering from two tornadoes that struck back in late May. The focus yesterday morning was on the Creekside nursing home. As water started rising inside the facility, officials quickly moved 86 patients out of that building. This woman received a phone call early in the morning.
She knew my sister was in a nursing home at Yellville, and she said she was going to drive one of the buses to go get the patients out of the nursing home because they said the water was up to their beds.
And there are no reported injuries at this time. All the residents are being moved to different facilities because it could be some time before they're able to return. Heavy rain on Tuesday caused a dam in southern Illinois to fail, forcing 200 people to evacuate from their homes. One woman says she woke up to find water up to her ankles. That's when she called 911.
So about 20 minutes after I was on the call, the water had gone from just below my calf to above my waist. And at that point, the lady's, she's trying to tell me, we have to look for a boat.
And first responders were able to reach her by boat. That's when she, her 2 dogs, and a cat were taken to safety. There were no reported injuries, and the situation is now under control. Intense heat has been a big issue this week with repeated heat advisories and excessive heat warnings all across the country. To find out what exactly goes into making a heat index forecast, let's turn to meteorologist Lana Foss.
Meteorologists use actual temperature data and the relative humidity percentage to calculate the heat index. The math equation for it is a paragraph long, so we're just going to stick to the basics. The National Weather Service has a graph used to calculate the heat index numbers, and the farther right you go in the graph shows that heat increase. In order to determine when to issue heat advisories, watches, and warnings, the National Weather Service analyzes heat index readings. So let's take a look at the criteria needed for heat advisories or warnings to be issued. For a heat advisory, the heat index must reach 105 degrees, and for an excessive heat warning, a temperature of 110 is reached on that heat index scale. Either way, any heat alerts should be taken seriously. It is more difficult for your sweat to evaporate in an environment with high humidity, and when we are unable to effectively cool down, heat stress intensifies. Heat exhaustion and stroke are very important to recognize. Take frequent breaks indoors, drink lots of water, and limit your time in direct sunlight if you must be outdoors. And if you see anyone suffering from heat stroke or heat exhaustion, take any necessary precautions or call 911. Heat is the biggest weather killer. Last year, over 2,000 people died due to high heat levels. This is why meteorologists continue to stress this issue during the summer.
And between the hot temperatures and a lack of rain, fire crews have been busy in Utah. Kristen McPeak takes a look at how the weather and dry conditions are increasing the risk for wildfires.
One of the busiest years we've had in Utah for quite a while.
Draper Fire Chief Clint Smith has worked in fire for over 30 years.
Our fuels are drying out very, very quickly if they're not already dried out.
He and his crews have been responding to several fires these past few weeks.
Based on what you've been seeing these past few weeks, what has that told you about what's next to come?
Our extended 30-day forecast right now for the area calls for above average temperatures and below average precipitation. We continue to really be in this kind of worst case scenario to where we are not going to get anything to help decrease that danger.
Smith says that last year was quiet thanks to the runoff from the snowy winter season. And now people have their guard down, even though our water supply is recovering. Jordan Clayton with the Utah Snow Survey has been analyzing the soil moisture.
The soil moisture is a pretty interesting thing to look at right now. Certainly our surface soils, 2 inches down roughly, are really, really dry, and that reflects how dry conditions have been statewide.
What kind of things does that moisture in the soil tell you about fire season?
That poses a risk for our fire hazard. We know that when we have drier and drier superficial soils, we increase that fire risk in Utah's mountains.
Heavy rain slammed New York yesterday, beginning in the afternoon and then pushing its way down the Hudson Valley. The heavy rain and intense wind lasted for hours, along with thunder and also lightning. These storms continue to grow into the evening. Several severe thunderstorm warnings were issued. In fact, this was a scene, though, in Manhattan. The rain is somewhat really of a welcome sign, as it will bring relief from those recent scorching temperatures. And our storm chaser, Brett Adair, was out chasing last night. This was a scene in Childersburg, Alabama, about 40 miles southeast of Birmingham. Rain and heavy winds slammed that area. And coming up, the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how severe drought is impacting farmers in Alabama, and we'll introduce you to the firefighting ghosts of North Carolina.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Last night's showers and thunderstorms associated with that front that has made its way off to the east. More importantly, drier air, less humid air will be making an appearance in the Northeast for the first time in many weeks today. It starts off muggy, but by late in the day, I think drier air will certainly establish itself. Any clouds, any early morning showers, they're moving out. 80s and low 90s will be common for highs today. As we go into our Friday, look for highs in the upper 70s and low 80s with low humidity.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We are going to start out much nicer as we head into the next few days. Nice and dry, but the exception of just a stray shower thunderstorm. As this front has gone by, it's going to drop our rain chances, except mainly to the south towards Virginia. We're otherwise looking much cooler. We have had 4 days in a row of triple digits around Baltimore. We're in the 90s tomorrow with some cooler temperatures as well into your Friday and Saturday, still keeping it much cooler.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs. It looks like we're seeing hot temperatures in the Carolinas from Raleigh, 91 degrees, as well as Charleston, 91. 93 in Macon. Temperatures in the 80s back up towards Nashville, 85 in Tupelo. Atlanta, about 89 degrees. We do have a front that's pushing through. That cold front's going to continue to fire off some showers and thunderstorms going into the afternoon hours across parts of Atlanta, up around the Raleigh and Columbia area. A few heavier downpours on the Outer Banks, and then through parts of South Georgia.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
A new study from the University of Oregon found that wildfire smoke can be especially bad for kids, and parents may not have the proper tools to understand the risk. Now officials are looking at ways to explain just how dangerous wildfire smoke can be. Meteorologist Allison Guttleburr has more.
An eerie orange glow or maybe a hazy skyline. Wildfire smoke is a common sight during Pacific Northwest summers, and with it can come dangerous air. In the United States, we measure air quality on a 0 to 500 scale. The higher the number, the more hazardous. In Canada, air quality is measured on a scale of 1 to 11. Researchers at the University of Oregon say for parents that may be easier to understand.
But importantly, when parents were shown an air quality index that displayed a moderate amount of smoke in the air, which, as I mentioned, still does pose a risk to children's health, only some versions of the infographics that we tested appeared to motivate parents to want to take these same kind of actions. And it was specifically the Canadian AQHI, the one with the smaller values.
Scientists say poor air quality is more dangerous to kids because they spend more time outside and breathe in more air in relation to their size. That can have a big impact on still developing organs.
I look every day because I have asthma, and I can, if it's even moderate, I can feel it in my lungs. For my daughter, because my asthma is so severe, I feel like if it's not safe for me to go outside, then it's not safe for her to go outside.
Future research is planned on digging deeper into the impacts wildfire smoke has, specifically on where someone lives.
In North Carolina, residents have found a natural, creative way to get rid of underbrush that can create a risk for wildfire. Rich Hodge looks at why people are turning to goats rather than more traditional methods to clear the danger.
And I saw the fuel that's going to make a wildfire worse, and I figured I needed to do something about it.
I think they're up for the challenge, so this is very natural, and the goats do all the work.
The goats are natural foragers, able to get into steep terrains. Rutledge's goats, 7 of them, will hang out munching in a fence-protected area for a couple weeks.
Little shrubs, some of this English ivy, just some of the invasives here.
Miller says they're more cost-effective than a crew with heavy machinery or pesticides.
For the cost of 10 gallons of Roundup, you can visit with 7 friendly goats for an entire week.
They come with playful names.
Hershey, Heath, Uno, Reese, and Oreo.
Some local kids on hand for the occasion.
Because I have goats of my own at my house, and I love them, and they're sweetest little things.
Both Miller and Rutledge hope this approach catches on. fire leaders too.
Perhaps after this experiment is done and it's successful, I'll talk with my insurance company about seeing perhaps a discount on my homeowner's insurance.
We're open to coordinating with cities, parks, rec, homes, just different businesses, that sort of thing.
I think anything that we can do to reduce fuel loads around your residence is a good idea. So anything innovative, we're for that, and I can't see a downside.
Portions of Alabama are in a severe drought, and it's having a major impact on the state's farming industry. Gracie Johnson spoke to farmers in the area to find out how it's impacting crops and the ways they're trying to mitigate the lack of water.
These should be a lot bigger than this now because of lack of water.
Dorman Grace is a sixth-generation farmer. His family has experienced drought-ravaged crops before. Even so, each time it happens, it hurts the same.
It's nothing new. We've been through it before. We'll survive this.
The severe drought in Walker County is not only causing the corn to mature slower.
You can also see that we have some damage from insects that we get. We can get worms and all that, and they're more abundant during a drought.
They rely solely on rainfall to water their crops because their fields aren't large enough for an irrigation system.
Our fields are not large enough to have irrigated, so those farmers get to have that access to water where we just depend on the good Lord to supply the rain for us.
Grace believes this year's crop is still salvageable. They're holding out for an abundant rain to save their crop.
We need a rain really soon. You can tell James Spann to hurry up and pray us up a rain and get us some water coming.
And if you're at home and dealing with dry conditions, you may not be worried about cornfields, but rather the grass just in your own yard. There are things you can do to help your grass survive the hot, dry weather. Here's meteorologist Brandon Larson.
So what do we do to make the grass prosper when it's not getting enough rain? Well, we bring the hose to it. We either spray it down with a water hose, or you might have a handy-dandy sprinkler system to help out with that. And I want to show you some of the best practices when it comes down to watering your grass. Some of you might be doing this method for the first time in a while, or maybe for the first time ever because you're used to getting some rain to water your grass for you. So when it comes down to watering your grass, you want to do it early in the morning. The reason why is because during the afternoon, that strong sun allows some of that water to evaporate off the grass. So you might be out there watering your grass in the beating sun during the afternoon thinking you're getting a lot of work done. However, that sun's evaporating that water off of the grass, and it's not really helping your grass out much. Another thing, you don't want to water your grass so late in the evening. If you do it late in the evening or overnight, it can lead to some mold and fungus growth overnight. You definitely don't want that for your grass to keep it healthy. So the best method, water your grass early in the morning, and that would be the best way to keep it healthy during these drought-like conditions many of us across the eastern U.S. are dealing with. I'm meteorologist Brandon Lawson. Take care, my friends.
And when there is a drought, the chance for a dust storm can increase. They're common in areas with dry and also arid climates. Reno, Nevada meteorologist Rena Plunkett gives us a closer look at dust storms and what you should do if you find yourself caught in one.
From whipping winds, thunder, and rain this weekend, it has been quite the eventful last couple of days. We got this video of a hubbub or a dust storm. And dust storms form when cold air pushes strongly on the ground and moves ahead of thunderstorms. Since Nevadans quite literally live in one of the driest states in the country, we are no strangers to dust storms in the summertime. So in case you forgot, here are some safety tips. Make sure you pull over if you are caught in one of these storms, turn off the lights, and pop up the emergency brake. Then take off your foot off the pedal to make sure that the lights aren't on. Sound your horn if you are caught in one of them, and use the painted centered line to help guide you. Never, ever stop on the road or travel on the portion of the highway if you can help it. All good reminders as we continue to bake in the heat.
And dust is having an impact on tropical storms, but this dust comes all the way from Africa. Meteorologist Christina Ernie explains.
Tropical activity in the Atlantic basin has been pretty quiet over the past week, and it's because something called the Saharan air layer. It's actually exactly what it sounds like, too. You can see it here on satellite imagery. It's actually dust from the Saharan desert in Africa getting lofted into the atmosphere. This very, very dry air mass, and very windy one too, begins to slide over the ocean, and it suppresses tropical activity.
And before a short break, we soar over Seattle, Washington, and take in views of the iconic Space Needle.
Well, a very good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Really comfortable conditions across the Midwest for the day today. Humidity low for most of the region here, and a lot of high temperatures in the mid-80s or 70s. Going to feel really nice. It is a little bit warmer on the fringe of the Midwest. Jumping into the day tomorrow, got a few scattered showers and storms starting to slide in from the west, and we'll see a few of those scattered showers and storms for tomorrow across the Central Plains for your Saturday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Things are starting off pretty nice up in Amarillo. Nice and cool at 66, it's 70 at Oklahoma City. Meanwhile, warm and humid down to the south, but that won't last. Very weak cold front coming through. More clouds and an opportunity for rain for South Texas. Also back out to Louisiana as well. Otherwise, temperatures will be a little bit below the normal. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi, everybody, and a good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, the heat is mitigated a little bit because of the thunderstorms that rolled through the northwest on Wednesday, but just a little bit. We're still at 100 today out of Spokane and 104 out of Boise. Look at the heat all the way deep into the desert southwest around Phoenix and back toward Vegas, too. As we head into the afternoon, more of that monsoonal moisture will bubble up over the Four Corners region. And that's the scene from here.
The National Weather Desk.
Have you ever heard of crepuscular rays? Chances are you have seen them, though. Let's take a look at a Facebook post from meteorologist Brad Montgomery highlighting those rays and just how far away they can be seen.
There you can see in this picture what are called crepuscular rays. Here's a look at the video I took. Now, toward the right side of the screen, it's dark. I did get up there and get a quick shot of the moon. It was a beautiful evening, but toward the left side of the screen, you'll see it is brighter. What is causing that shadowing in the sky? You're going to be shocked. Again, that video, I was standing in North Texas over toward the center right part of your screen. And as I zoom out toward the left side of the screen, notice from 350 miles plus away, thunderheads in New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle, casting those shadows that were reaching all the way across the state from 350 miles away or more, all the way into North Texas. There's an example of crepuscular rays.
On the air, you can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Thursday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.